Ebenezer Scrooge is in some ways a story about the human potential for reinvention. If you aren't happy with who you are, you can change that. There's time, but it takes a willingness to change. Today's Scrooge, Jim Carrey, is a great example of conscious reinvention, a performer who has always been ready to experiment with changing his life, even when he's at the top of his field.
You won't get me in here.
Born in Newmarket, Ontario, Canada in 1962, Jim Carrey was the son of an accountant who moonlighted as a musician. Carrey had an interest in performing from an early age, developing his first celebrity impressions at 8, and writing to Carol Burnett to ask for a job on The Carol Burnett Show at the age of 10. His family suffered financial hardships throughout his childhood and even lost their home while Jim was still a teenager, resulting in Jim living with his brother for several months out of a tent in Charles Daly Park in Lincoln, Ontario. Financial stability came finally when his father found work in the accounting department of the Titan Wheels tire factory. And because they moved into a home directly across the street, Jim and his brother John were able to get jobs there performing janitorial and security guard duties on the overnight shift. At the age of 15, Carrey made his comedy stage debut with the help of his father, who drove him to the Yuck Yucks Comedy Club in downtown Toronto. Carrey's celebrity impersonations bombed badly at a club that was described at the time as Belushi-esque, with the owner describing the act as Bad Rich Little. Even so, a year later, Carrey would leave school and pursue a stand-up career in earnest, while still keeping his job at the tire factory. He hit the open mic circuit and quickly rose through the ranks, and by 17 was booking paid shows. In 1980, he auditioned for Saturday Night Live, but he was passed over in favor of Charles Rocket. But he did manage to land voice acting work for Canadian late-night television. In 1981, at the age of 19, Carrey appeared performing stand-up on television for the first time on An Evening at the Improv, and also was cast in a main role in the television movie Introducing Janet, his first ever acting role. The movie has since been re-released on video under the title Rubberface, and repackaged to make it appear more in line with the slapstick movies Carrey would become popular for in the 1990s. By the end of 81, Carrey's Canadian profile had grown so great that he applied for a United States work permit to try to book appearances on television and also to tour as Rodney Dangerfield's opening act. After wrapping up his contract on Dangerfield's tour, Carrey made the decision to move to Hollywood in 1983. He made getting his stand-up act onto The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson his next major career goal, and started working his way through the LA comedy scene. He was actually booked on Carson at one point early on, but his booking was canceled after he bombed an appearance at the Improv. Even so, he kept plugging away, and after receiving a major role in NBC's The Duck Factory, he got his coveted booking as a promotional appearance for the new sitcom. The rapid-fire set included all of his most popular impressions, but it was ultimately thought of as a failure after Carson did not wave him over to join him on the main stage. The Duck Factory premiered on NBC in early 1984 and by July of that same year had been canceled, and Carrey returned to touring. He auditioned yet again for Saturday Night Live, and once again he was rejected, this time not even getting to perform for Lorne Michaels, as a panel of writers, including Al Franken, decided that his material would not appeal to the producer. At 21 years old, Carrey decided that his impressionist act was a dead end and scrapped his entire routine in favor of observational and character humor. According to the comic, he would sometimes walk out on stage without any material prepared, knowing that he would most likely bomb, but doing so anyway because he needed to change the course he was on. Although, admittedly, this was not a very popular decision among the comedy club bookers who thought they were getting LA's premier impressionist for their Friday night slots. By 1990, Carrey had starred in a failed sitcom, acted in a number of film roles that had garnered him little recognition, and had been rejected by Saturday Night Live 3 times when he started appearing on the Fox Network's new hip and edgy comedy show In Living Color. The show was created by Keenan Ivory Wayans in an attempt to build a more diverse version of Saturday Night Live. Jim Carrey was part of the original cast and would be the only member of the cast to star in all 5 seasons of the show's original run. While the show never quite achieved SNL numbers, it was a major brand for Fox and to this day remains an important part of television comedy history. And Carrey appeared playing extreme slapstick sketch characters like Fire Marshal Bill that showed off his intense facial flexibility, his long-limbed physicality, and his absolute commitment to a bit. Film success came too as he appeared in the first Ace Ventura Pet Detective movie and immediately followed it with Tex Avery-styled superhero film The Mask, both of which were surprise hits. Through most of the 90s, Carrey appeared at cinemas in broad slapstick roles that had some critics declaring him a modern Jerry Lewis, often with all of the backhanded praise that comes with such a compliment. In 1998, Carrey reinvented himself once again with his appearance in the satirical The Truman Show. While some scenes used his slapstick virtuosity, the movie mostly called for a straightforward performance, and Carrey delivered. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor, and many voiced surprise that he was not also nominated for an Oscar. He followed up in 1999 with Man on the Moon, in which he dived into serious method acting to portray Andy Kaufman. He started bouncing back and forth between critically praised turns in movies like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and more slapstick fare like Me, Myself, and Irene, and appeared as Count Olaf in the first unsuccessful adaptation of Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. In 2004, he was inducted into the Canadian Walk of Fame, and in the same year, he received U.S. citizenship, maintaining a dual citizenship with Canada. Starting in 2009, Carrey became a vocal anti-vaxxer, appearing with Jenny McCarthy at the front of vaccine protests and accusing politicians who passed vaccination laws of poisoning children. As of this filming, he has not walked back any of his statements regarding vaccines. From 2014 to 2017, Carrey's career had an unusual slowdown as he appeared on screen very little, mostly focusing on work behind the camera, such as executive producing I'm Dying Up Here, a show based in part on Carrey's own experience coming up through the stand-up scene of the 70s and 80s. He also appeared in Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, featuring a very special contractually obligated mention of Tony Clifton. Yes, that is all the actual title of the movie. A documentary about the drama that surrounded Carrey's method approach during Man in the Moon. 2018 saw Carrey return to movie screens as Dr. Robotnik in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie to wide critical acclaim. Despite his usual reticence with regard to sequels, Carrey has already filmed scenes reprising the role for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, currently planned for release in 2022.
Look! Look! Down here!
Are they yours?
They are man's. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both.
In 2004, director Robert Zemeckis made a little movie called The Polar Express, loosely based on the classic Chris von Allsburg book. Working on the motion capture CGI production caused Zemeckis to fall in love with the process, and he started looking for a follow-up project. That project came in the form of 2009's Disney's A Christmas Carol. Zemeckis, who is arguably still best known for Back to the Future, described Dickens's novel as one of his favorite stories involving time travel. According to some sources, Owen Wilson was originally approached to play the lead role, but turned it down. Instead, the role was offered to Carrey, who had previously turned down the role of Buzz Lightyear for Pixar's Toy Story. This time around, Carrey accepted and dove into work on his UK dialects, determined to present them as accurately as possible as he took on the multiple roles of Ebenezer Scrooge and all three Christmas spirits. The music for the film came from prolific composer Alan Silvestri, who is a frequent collaborator with Zemeckis, and he mined existing Christmas carols for inspiration. For the film's major musical moment, God Bless Us Everyone, Silvestri paired with Jagged Little Pill co-writer Glenn Ballard as his lyricist, and the song was performed by Andrea Bocelli. Look, this was a big splash for Disney. They were very clearly going all in on this production. They had the latest tech behind their animation, Bob Zemeckis in the director's chair, Jim Carrey starring in the middle of his critical darling phase, and an operatic tenor performing what should have been the soundtrack's breakout single. They were banking on this being huge.
We have got a town full of people out there who have lost the Christmas spirit. And I believe the only chance we have of getting it back is to put on a flawless production of an almost unrecognizable version of A Christmas Carol.
It made Disney a lot of money, but in industry terms, it was either merely respectable or, depending on who you ask, a flop. On an estimated budget of $200 million, not including promotional budget, it brought in $325 million worldwide, only $137 million domestically. And when it comes to box office, most of the major studios really measure success or failure dependent on the domestic take, not the global take. Reviews were mixed, both from professional critics and from audiences. A lot of critics praised Carrey's performance, especially knowing that the majority of the motion seen on screen for his characters was actually performed by Carrey himself in motion capture. And some critics had praise for the film's commitment to producing, honestly, the damnedest A Christmas Carol ever put to film, but many found the CGI creepy and dead-eyed. It tried very hard to be photorealistic and wound up square in the middle of the uncanny valley, and to be honest, it has not aged well since. Others criticized the movie for scaring the crap out of kids with dark, looming environments and some truly creepy character design, and still others just hated how the adaptation compared to others. With Brian D. Johnson writing in Maclean's magazine, "The only emotion generated is anger, that this is how a whole generation of kids will get their first taste of A Christmas Carol." I have to say that I enjoy the fact that one of our first images of Scrooge in this movie is that of him paying for Jacob Marley's funeral. And in doing so, we get to see Scrooge looking genuinely, physically pained that he has to part with money. How dare they ask for money in exchange for just putting a body in the ground? In fact, he is so upset to be forced to pay that he gets himself a little bit of an instant rebate by taking the coins that had been placed on Marley's eyes. This is a truly crass and horrible Scrooge, and he's surrounded by extremes as well. The Ghost of Christmas Present is the kind of jolly and boisterous that we generally associate with fraternity brothers in full-on kegger mode today. And this is one of the few instances where you'll get to see Scrooge's nephew Fred being genuinely start a fist fight angry at his uncle for not liking Christmas. And there's a massive point made as Marley and the desperate spirits appear to Scrooge that Marley is forced to wander the earth without resting. I'll be honest, finally having time and the ability to travel sounds like this elder millennial's dream, but Scrooge seems bothered by the idea. But for all the weirdness of sending Scrooge on a chase through the London streets avoiding the wheels of a carriage, this movie is incredibly accurate to the end of the book. Scrooge does not go to see the Cratchits on Christmas Day. Rather, he waits until the next day to surprise Bob Cratchit at work. And it's straight out of the book, the way that Scrooge can barely keep a straight face as he engages in the merry prank of making Bob think he's about to be fired. By the way, I have watched a lot of these movies for this countdown, and after a while, it starts to be less than entertaining every time Bob Cratchit goes for a slide on the ice. I mean, you are your family's sole means of support, sir. At least take care of your hips. So what do you think of 2009's Disney's A Christmas Carol? Drop into the comments below and let me know. Let me know what you think about Jim Carrey's take on both Scrooge and the three ghosts as well. And while you're down there in the comments, make sure that you stop by the like button. There's also the subscribe button, which if you haven't hit it already, that'll make sure that you know every time there's a video updated on this channel. And hey, if you have friends who always talk about this movie, there's a share button that you can share this video with them and they can see the video too. And then you guys can talk about, wow, wasn't that film optimist guy completely wrong about this movie? Until next time, I am Glenn Williams, the film optimist, reminding you to watch like it means something.